It's because he's pretty good at his job and he doesn't get thrown at a ton. Not a guy who got a lot of interceptions at Penn State. One of those, one sack in 4 years, but 11 pass defenses this past season, 6 of them against Purdue. That's a school record. And a guy who is a physical specimen. You can see him towering over the receiver here. He's got long arms, and when I say he's got long arms, 34-inch length. Dane Brugler from The Athletic said that Joey Porter Jr. has go-go gadget arms. And he also talked about those long arms providing a large tackling radius. You heard catch radius, right?
Right.
I don't hear tackle radius a ton, but this is a physical specimen in terms of how the NFL looks at cornerbacks. And I personally think the family ties are a fantastic advantage. Not just a son who had a father playing in the NFL, but a son going to the team where the father made his fame and his name, where the father was a driving force, both with how he played and with how he led emotionally, and his fire on a Super Bowl winning team. I would have been happy with Broderick Jones or Joey Porter Jr. with the first pick. They got them both.
And having 32 because it is day 2, it's almost like having a first-round pick. This is from the Chase Claypool trade with the Chicago Bears. And just fitting to have Alan Faneca being the one to announce the pick from Kansas City. The Porter family was there yesterday for day 1. A lot of people thought that's where he would go. They actually came back here to Pittsburgh. So that's where he found out he gets to stay home, the place where he grew up. So very cool to see. And as you said, with the tackling radius, with that position, that's something you want to see. And, you know, from Cam Hayward to Pat Peterson, these guys are elated to have him joining their team. And especially with Patrick Peterson, having a vet, somebody who has been through this.
Great point.
Such a great thing to have him to be able to mentor him and help him along through this process.
Yeah, I think the same thing applies with Allen Robinson at wide receiver in a young wide receiver room. But I want to get back to the family ties thing for a minute, because I know there might be some people skeptical thinking, they just took him because he's Joey Porter's kid. Well, they took him because he can play, but how big an advantage is that? Let's go to a neutral arbitrator, if you will. Charlie Weiss, former NFL offensive coordinator, former head coach at Notre Dame. I happened to hear him on Sirius XM NFL radio channel last week, and he was talking about the 3 cornerbacks as the pre-draft process unfolded. Pretty much the universal top 3 were Christian Gonzalez from Oregon, Devin Witherspoon from Illinois, and Joey Porter Jr. from Penn State in whatever order. Weiss talked about them as follows. He thought that Witherspoon was the best at actually playing cornerback. Gonzalez was the best at being athletic and fluid. And Porter, in the estimation of Charlie Weiss, was the best combination of the 2. Weiss thought they were all first rounders, and he added this. I wrote this down. Quote, I would want Joey Porter Jr. over both of them. The number one reason I would want Joey Porter Jr. is he's Joey Porter Sr.'s son. Innate ability with a dad that was as good a player as him, fluid, solid in coverage, good tackler. There's a lot to like. If you're a stats guy, if you're looking for huge production to impress you, you're looking in the wrong spot. But there was a need at corner, as we talked about a minute ago. I'm sure it was under consideration with the first pick that the Steelers made in this draft, and the way things fell. You know, some of the things that conspired to push Broderick Jones down a little bit to them, I think helped push Joey Porter down to them. That was a kind of a color outside the lines first round in a lot of areas, and the Steelers are beneficiaries again, Missy.
Absolutely. And just, talking about his dad, Coach Tomlin is a big advocate of having those family ties, whether it's a dad or a brother. And, TJ Watt, one of my favorite things he's ever said is, I knew I could make it to the NFL because I drank the same milk, the same peanut butter and jelly, the same food that JJ ate growing up. So it's setting that example, and Coach Tomlin talked about it a little bit in his pre-draft press conference. You don't have to dream about going to the NFL. You see it firsthand. You know that it's possible. And as you said, what a better example than Joey Porter Sr.
If you watch the combine coverage on the NFL Network, you saw kind of that relationship playing out and the impact that seniors had on junior. Joey Porter Sr. is being interviewed in the stands while Junior is running his 40-yard dashes. And one of the things they talked about was, why did Joey Porter Jr. stay in school this year Why did he not come out last year? Well, Joey Porter Sr. said he had some things in his game he needed to clean up. Joey Porter Sr. thought he would be in a better position if he stayed. It almost sounded like he said, no, you're not coming out. Trust me on this. I don't know if that's exactly the way it went down, but it came off that way, at least to me. And lo and behold, is he a tweener between first and second round? I mean, the NFL's calling it a second round.
Right.
There's 32 teams, and he's the 32nd pick, and he's coming here. I got to believe he's going to be motivated, and I got to believe that Senior is going to be motivated to keep the family name and the legacy shining as brightly as it did on his watch.
And to add to your story, to give credit to his mom, she also played a role in telling him, to stay that year as well. As a mom, I feel like you need to give the mom some credit too, not just Joey Porter Sr. But let's get to some of those tweets that I was telling you about from what will be now his new teammates with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Cam Hayward is at a Steelers draft party. It's Stage AE, but you can tell he's super excited as well. And we also have Patrick Peterson, who had Joey Porter Jr. on his podcast with Brian McFadden earlier this week or last week. I can't remember when I saw it. And they just talked about how special it could be if they were able to become teammates. So very cool to see. And as you said, it was a need for the Steelers. They got the offensive tackle, and being able to go defense here, they haven't had a defensive player drafted in the first 2 rounds the past 3 drafts. So it was something that, is bucking the trend a little bit and will hopefully help in what they're trying to build. As Omar Khan said yesterday, I'm just trying to build a Super Bowl championship team.
Yeah, one of the other things that Dane Brugler gives Joey Porter Jr. a lot of credit for is how hard he works at his game. Now, one of the reasons Senior thought it would be better to stay in school another year was at times a year ago, Junior was a little grabby, some penalty issues at Penn State. That has been cleaned up to an extent, but Dane Brugler also points out that Porter did 17 bench press reps at 225, which, given the long arms that we talked about a minute ago, the bench press is sometimes a tough exercise if you have long arms. Brugler gives Porter great credit for 17, and also, even though he's a starting cornerback at Penn State, Missi 4 years as a jammer on the punt return team. So he's not afraid to get in the weight room. He's not afraid to get physical. He's not afraid to keep working on his game. Check another box.
And that's something Danny Smith likes, when guys like that can raise their hand and contribute on special teams. And especially for rookies, it's more than just learning your position and your job. I'm
going to speculate a little bit here too as well. When we heard Omar Khan and Mike Tomlin talking about the trade with New England yesterday, when they moved up to get Broderick Jones, they said, hey, we had a definite line we weren't going to cross. It had to be a 4th-round pick or higher. We weren't going to give up a second or a third. And they were able to get the deal done. Now, if you're watching any of the network coverage of the draft and reading Twitter, a lot of people said there was a lot of activity, a lot of discussion. The Steelers didn't just trade out of that pick because people expected them to, because they're no longer in the 4th, 5th, and 6th round. It makes natural sense, move down a little bit, get somebody else later. No, they had a price apparently. I'm assuming this is the way it went. And when the price was met by New England, they made the deal. When it wasn't met this time, they said, fine, we'll stay put. We like this guy.
But you're in the position when you're the first draft of day 2. Last night, I'm sure they received calls as well, just based on how the quarterbacks were falling or not falling. And then all day today, even when they were on the clock, until I think they showed the War Room video where you could see Art Rooney II on the phone, you're probably thinking, okay, that's probably a player, not another team.
Yeah, and they got value, I think. Brugler had Joey Porter as his 16th rated player. Daniel Jeremiah of NFL Network and NFL.com expected him to go in the top 15. Didn't happen. Hey, every round of every draft is full of stories of risers and fallers. But I think you got value, you got need, you got a player who is established with a good college resume, and a guy who they will expect to get better and be an impact player. And I want to revisit your point about Patrick Peterson, the mentor, in addition to Joey Porter Sr. and Cam Hayward and some of the leadership they have in that locker room. There's a lot of reasons why this is a fit, Missi.
All right. Joey Porter Jr. is doing a conference call right now with the media. We're going to take a quick break. When we return, we'll hear from one of the Steelers' assistant coaches to talk about pick number 32. We'll be right back. All right, let's go upstairs. The Steelers defensive coordinator is ready to talk about Joey Porter Jr.
Joey, we know we wanted a young corner. He's got a lot of great attributes: size, length, competitive, tough, really good. Really glad we were able to get him to come in and contribute to our team. We're looking forward to him coming in, competing, having an opportunity to help us win games this year. There's no red shirts, none of that stuff. So hopefully when he gets in here, we'll get right to work.
Teryl, do you ever think he would be there at 32, and why do you think he didn't fall?
You never know. The draft is a crazy thing, so you don't know how it falls. I think when you saw the quarterbacks go, and then you saw that, a lot of people were saying, hey, these are the top two corners, and the other one didn't go till 17 or 18. You thought, hey, there's a chance that some of these really good guys, there's going to be some really good players that are still left here at 32. We were fortunate it was him.
Teryl, how important was it to get an outside corner?
I think it's very important. I think one of the things I really loved the way our guys competed last year. You know, we led the league in interceptions, but we also probably were in the bottom 5 in terms of big plays. And so we want to make sure we get some competition, some help out there that we can eliminate those things.
Is it your plan right now for him to come in and start day one?
Well, no, everybody's going to have to earn it, but he's going to have every opportunity to get in there and show us what he can do.
What do you see from Joey's skill set? I mean, only one interception in his career at college, but what do you see from him that leads you to believe that he can produce more at the
Well, when you look at him, he's tall, he's strong, he's long, he gets his hands on receivers, he's a big target to throw over. I remember a long time ago when I was in Seattle when we had signed Bobby Taylor, and Matt Hasselbeck wouldn't throw some balls toward him in practice, and he goes, I think I can get it there, but he's just so long that it makes you pause. And I think that's something with quarterbacks. That length is an issue because he does have a long or big radius to be able to get back to a ball with it. He may look like he's out of position on. And so I think he's got a lot of really good NFL traits. We know the issue in terms of he has lack of ball production, but that is always something that you can work on. And as long as he's good and he's doing all the other things that he does well, we'll be glad with him.
Obviously, he's someone that has a lot of familiarity with people in the building and vice versa. How much does that help him in his transition, just having not only his dad, but just being around here, growing up here?
Oh, I think it's more not the people in the building or his dad, just he's basically coming home. And I think that's really, a lot of young guys are going to go to a new city. They got to learn a new way to live. All this stuff he all knows. So that's going to, that's less stress to a young guy as he comes in, so he can really concentrate more on the football part of it.
Sometimes you worry about their agility, quickness. He didn't time in the 3-cone or were you worried about it?
No, and here's the one thing I've learned in my time in this league is those big guys are going to look different than the little guys, and they may not look as fast or maybe sometimes not even move as fast, but they cover more ground. And when I've had the taller corners, sometimes it doesn't look the same, but boy, the job gets done the same. And that's really, he may not move as fast as a smaller guy in terms of lateral movement, but the ground he covers is going to be bigger and better. And so that's what I looked at, and I have no reservations about that part of his game.
I know sometimes it can be made kind of a big deal when you have a rookie come in, this guy like Patrick Peterson there to kind of have that mentor role, but what excites you about the two of them working together in the ways that you might anticipate this season?
Just what you said. I think that's really good. I remember, and again, just kind of throwing out, when I first got to Detroit, we had Darius Slay was going in his second year. We had Rasheed Mathis, a veteran corner, and that dynamic was outstanding for both of them, because the young guy keeps the older guy kind of, loose, and the older guy gives his knowledge to the young guy, and if the young guy is willing to take it, there's a great dynamic there. And I think we can get that same type of dynamic because everybody knows what kind of guy Pat P is, and Joey's a great young man. And I think, those two guys working together along with the other guys in our room and Grady and everybody, it's going to be good. He's going to be in an environment that gives him an opportunity to succeed.
That natural extra attention, the scrutiny that's going to come with him being Joey's son, Penn State guy, the local guy. Is it in a way offset a bit, mitigated some by him being a second rounder as opposed to you trading up to get him at 14, get him at 17 when you got another good player already and gave other teams a chance to get him? Does that sort of take some of that concern away?
I don't think so. I think, most guys I don't worry about that. I think most of the guys don't worry about that. They just worry about coming in and competing. And I don't think that pressure will be any different no matter where he went. Whether we traded up, we took him at 17, or got him when we got him. I think that pressure's the same for players to come in and perform, and I don't think it would be anything added.
His demeanor tells you that. What about
that was good.
I just wanted to follow up on that, but you said he'll have pressure kind of no matter what. What about his demeanor? Just not only maybe before but going through the draft process and evaluating him tells you in his demeanor that he can handle that pressure of coming back here.
Well, I think the big thing with him was it was always, he knew that what he had to do, it wasn't because of who his dad was and why people were coming in. They were coming in to see him because he was a good player. And I think he understood that right from the beginning. And he handled it like a true professional, like what you want to see these guys do when they go through this process. And that's part of the process. Seeing how the guys handle things, how do they react when the coaches are in, how do they act. One of the things we do when we go into buildings and we go to workouts, we always talk to other people in the building and, how is he around other people? And there wasn't a bad word to be said about the young man. And so we feel really, really comfortable in terms of that.
Teryl, you mentioned Patrick Peterson. Getting him and Joey, how has that changed the dynamic of that position and your defense?
I don't know what it's going to do till we get him in the building. All I know is we've added another piece we think is a talented piece, and we'll kind of figure that out as we go. And maybe in Latrobe I'll have a little better answer for you. How's that?
You mentioned his competitiveness. How does that manifest itself on the field?
Well, I think when you watch a guy that competes, there's going to be times that things happen out there that aren't the best, but you always watch him and he's continuing to scrap. The energy level doesn't change. The way he plays the game doesn't change. And you like guys that have that type of mentality when they play, because there's going to be a lot of things. There's going to be ebbs and flows in the games, but he doesn't allow that to affect him. He plays the game from start to finish the way you're supposed to.
It sounds like there was a lot of interest maybe in moving up to that 32nd pick. If you can, just what were some of the discussions like in the room about a possible trade, and what made you decide ultimately to stick and pick them?
That is above my pay grade, and we picked that guy, so I have no answer for you there.
Joey was obviously very gregarious and a trash talker and all this. What do you see about his personality? Is he like his dad? Is he not like his dad? And what drew him to you as a person?
That'd be hard to live up to your dad's trash talking. Joey's as good as there ever was. But no, I think, he's his own person. Really attentive. In my interactions with him, I know I was up there with the pro day and I had a good chance. I was kind of running it a little bit and sticking my nose in there because I wanted to be involved to see how he was. And really good listener. Going to ask the right questions and going to do the things that you ask him to do because he wants to be good. He wants to excel. And so I don't know if he'll be a big trash talker. I don't really care about that. All I care about is how does he play on Sundays. And I think he's setting himself up to have himself to give himself an opportunity to be a good player.
Is his skill set a match for the way you guys like to play, the press ability that he's shown?
I think it does. I think, one of the things that we always do, we look at guys and we want to know, hey, how do they play in a press? Because we're going to be playing man, you guys know that. But we're going to also play some zones, and we're also going to ask these guys to tackle some big backs in our division. And he's got the ability to do all those things. And so, when you start looking at skill sets, I felt really comfortable with what he brought to the table for us. And so we were good there.
Was he seriously considering 17 if you were able to trade up? Was there any beating on the table from you?
Like I said, that is above. You got to go down and talk to Omar and Mike about all that stuff. Those are behind closed door meetings, and they call me when it happens.
Who's the last press man corner you've had to this degree?
To that, well, again, Slay would press man. He was really good. It's been a while since you run into a big, long guy, and I had Bobby Taylor at the end of his career, and Bobby was a guy that could get his hands on you and disrupt you. But it's been a while. You don't see guys his size. Jimmy Smith at Baltimore, we drafted Jimmy. Jimmy was 6'0", just a little shade smaller, but he was a press guy as well.
Hasn't really been Pittsburgh's tradition, has it?
Well, I think so. When you watch Ike Taylor, who's been around, you saw him press on the backside quite a bit. And Ike Taylor would be in the 3x1 sets. He would be alone on the backside, and he was able to handle that. And I think when you have that dynamic, if you can get that type of guy, it really does help you because when you get a guy that can maybe make it so difficult for the other people, you can maybe kick some coverage, do some different things coverage-wise to kind of help others.
Like you said, I get it's not your decision to have been made either at 32 or at 17, but with all the corners that were coming down and then overnight with Porter still on the board at 32, were you anxious? Were you nervous? Were you excited? Like, what were your emotions waiting until this decision was made to go get him?
I don't, because I just think, the way it's going to shake out is the way it's going to shake out. And whoever it was going to be a Pittsburgh Steeler at 32, we were going to welcome him with open arms and do our best to coach him and help him become the best player he can be. And now, it happens that it's Joey, and that's great. But I don't really get anxious over those things. I just kind of understand that, hey, listen, whoever we bring in here at 32, we anticipate that guy is going to help us win games and going to be a good Pittsburgh Steeler.
He's a guy who's been around pros since he was a kid. Is that reflected in his demeanor or just anything like intangible-wise that you've noticed?
I think that may be why, again, when I was there and the feeling I got when I was interacting with him that he'd been around and understood that, hey, this was an important part of his day, important part of his quote-unquote interview process and how to handle it. And it's the same thing. You talk to guys about how he handled himself. I know he didn't do anything at the combine, but, there's other things that go on and how he handled himself. And I think that is something that he probably knew and understood because it's a different thing. Not everybody has a chance to experience, but he did.
Last two, if there are.
I talked you guys out. Outstanding.
Guys, just as an FYI, Joey is driving down here right now, so we're not going to do a conference call. We will make him available on that.
All right, and we are back downstairs. That was upstairs hearing Steelers defensive coordinator Teryl Austin talk about their pick number 32, Joey Porter Jr. You can tell a lot of excitement from him, and as we talked about earlier, just the fact he'll get to learn from Patrick Peterson. But I did love that, Coach Austin said how he will contribute this year and no red shirt will happen. So he'll have to earn it, but it doesn't sound like they have plans for him to just sit and watch.
Yeah, that got my attention too, Missy, when we were sitting here last night listening to Mike Tomlin and Omar Khan when they're asked how quickly is Broderick Jones going to be thrown in the starting lineup. Omar said, it's my job to bring in competition. And Mike Tomlin said, those things will be decided during the team development process. Mm-hmm. Now you hear Teryl Austin saying no red shirts, as you mentioned, and that Porter Jr. will be given every opportunity. I think a little bit more urgency at the corner position, at least from how I'm reading the signs, than maybe at offensive tackle. Two good gets to be certain, but they needed both of these positions. To me, it was immaterial which one came first.
Right.
It's not a chicken or an egg thing. I'm not worried about that.
Yeah.
You needed both of those positions. They got two really highly rated players. And I also got a kick out of the radius to get back on a ball. We're having all kind of radius discussions because Joey Porter Jr. is long. And last but not least, I got to give a tip of the cap to Teryl Austin, acknowledging that Joey Porter Sr. was, quote, as good as there's ever been at trash talking. I don't know if that tradition's going to continue, but throughout this, I don't know about you, but I've been thinking about Joey Porter Sr. every time Joey Porter Jr.'s name came up or I saw a clip or I checked out a stat. Boy, this was a fun place when he was around here. It doesn't really apply to anything, but I just wanted to acknowledge that one more time.
Yeah, bring some excitement. And I'm not sure if you caught the end of the press conference from upstairs, but as we said, the Porter family is in Pittsburgh. That's where they learned that he is now a Pittsburgh Steeler, and Joey Porter Jr. Will be making his way down here to the UPMC Rooney Sports Complex on the south side, so we will hopefully get to hear from him a little bit later.
That would be
the most Pittsburgh thing ever.
Well worth listening to, yeah.
All right, well, thanks for joining us. The Steelers have another pick coming up in the second round and the third, and we'll be bringing you live coverage once those are made. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you in a little bit.